Thank you so much for listening to Urbanistica podcast. I am Mustafa Sharif, an urban planner, and you're more than welcome to join my big journey of exploring the making of smarter and more livable cities. Please don't forget to follow Urbanistica on the different social media platforms, and also let's connect on LinkedIn. Big thanks to Urbanistica podcast partner AFRY. AFRY is an international engineering and design company providing sustainable solutions in the fields of energy, industry, and infrastructure. Are you ready for a new episode? Let's go for it. Today we have a new story from AFRY. We have two amazing storytellers. I have the pleasure to welcome my colleagues to Urbanistica podcast. Hey, and welcome Annie. Hey, and welcome Linda.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So how are you doing?
I'm good, thanks.
How are you doing, Linda?
I'm good too.
Thanks for coming. Thanks for giving your valuable time. I know you're super busy this week or maybe this month, right?
This year.
This lifetime.
This lifetime.
No, not too busy to come.
This is a highlight.
Yeah. Is it too much to do now at work?
There has been a lot, but we pushed some deadlines, so right now it feels okay.
Yeah. I'd rather have too much to do than too little to do, so I think it's good.
Yeah.
Same.
And also today the snow is falling down, so beautiful outside.
Yeah.
Yes.
You like snow in Stockholm?
Yes. I like it when I'm not in Stockholm. When I'm out skiing, I like it, but when I'm in the city, not so much.
I like it everywhere.
Everywhere, huh? I can see it in your eyes. Awesome. Let's start with you both. Let's start with you, Annie. You are one of our storyteller for today. How would you like to introduce yourself and tell us about your passion?
My name is Annie. I'm 28 years old, and I grew up in Västra Götaland in Sweden, the countryside. I've studied communications in Jönköping and Gothenburg, and now I live in Stockholm, where I work with marketing and communications at AFRY. So yeah, of course, communication is my passion, but I also like what you do. So urban planning is something I'm interested in as well as cross-country skiing, being outdoors, all sorts of outdoor activities and training. Yep.
Yes, welcome. And also I want to say thank you so much for all the work you do on social media, like pushing our project and telling the story about what we do. So thank you so much.
Thank you. But also I want to mention that I have a great team, so I'm very much not alone in this. So we have a great team with communicators at AFRY helping us to promote things in social media.
Yes, so shout out to the communication team here at AFRY. Moving to Linda, how would you like to introduce yourself and tell us about your passion?
Sure. Hello. My name is Linda Strindevall, and I'm 27 years old. I'm born and live in Sweden, but I've grown up a bit here and there. I work with climate at AFRY in the role as a climate reporting project manager. So the short version is that I work with setting climate targets and working to meet them. And I am part of the group sustainability team at AFRY. I'm passionate about nature as well. I mentioned that I lived a bit here and there and I was exposed to many different kinds of environments. So I think that kind of sparked interest, that I was passionate about safeguarding the planet. But I'm also very passionate about food. I'm a foodie. I like cooking, eating, and even growing it. So I don't have a big garden, but one day I will.
And you also have a dog.
Yeah, that was the next. I am very passionate about my dog. Her name is Peggy, and she's a cockapoo, a mix between cocker spaniel and poodle.
Nice.
And she is full of love and joy.
Yeah, she's adorable.
That's
I must
amazing.
admit.
That's amazing. Maybe next time you take her to the studio as well. Or
I want to take her everywhere.
So what are you cooking? What are you like master in?
Well, I don't have a go-to favorite dish. I just had lunch, so I can say that I made a saffron risotto.
Wow.
With asparagus.
Cool.
Yeah, I felt kind of Christmassy with the saffron. Had a vibe the other day. But my master is the morning pancakes, I think.
Cool.
Yeah, and now, okay, I'm gonna stop talking about food.
And Annie, maybe we should go for like a visit and also try the risotto with the saffron.
Yeah, sounds like a good plan.
Okay, let's get into the topic. The topic for today is like youth perspective on issue related to sustainability. And I know you're both very active in this topic, and you actually, together with a team, started the initiative here at AFRY. So Linda, tell us more about the background. Like, how did everything start?
It started with an initiative from Group Sustainability and Group Communications at AFRY to launch an internal youth panel. And I invited into a brainstorming meeting some fellow young employees to discuss what that should be. And Annie, you tell me, what was the mode when I invited into this mysterious meeting?
Yeah, some random people were invited. We didn't know each other from before. And Linda was like, "Hi, we're going to have a youth panel." And we were like, "What's a youth panel?" And Linda was like, "What do you think a youth panel is?" So, but I think that says a lot about how we started. We didn't know what we were aiming for, how we would do this, but together I think we found a good way forward.
Yeah, so like the start point was like that you get a question from your manager, I guess. Yeah, to start a youth perspective about sustainability.
Yeah, well,
or how was the question?
Well, there's so much going on in the world, and they thought we need to raise the youth perspective, but they thought that that's best done by the youth. So it wasn't very defined for a reason, because the youth are meant to define what a youth panel is and what the youth wants.
Yeah.
So in this meeting was just the initial start to have someone to discuss it with. And we took a look around the Teams group and decided that we do not represent the whole company. So we decided to start with facts and launched a survey for the whole company for all employees up to 30.
Okay.
Asking questions such as what they think, what kind of sustainability issues are important for them, what they think a youth panel should be doing, and what kind of topics they wish for AFRY representatives to advocate for at COP, the UN Climate Change Conference.
Yeah.
And also just asking, what do you want to ask and what do you want answers to?
Yeah, and we see that the youth perspective is being raised across the world in different contexts, like COP26 and Fridays for Future, etc. And I think if we, of course, wanted some own kind of forum for people to raise their voice, but also to discuss with people in other countries, with other backgrounds, and to find some kind of platform where great ideas can come together.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the youth isn't a homogeneous group, so it's good to see what others think. And I was amazed by the engagement, so I'm very happy I'm happy by the results, and I'm it's called boosted to do something about it.
Yeah, and we're gonna talk more about like the different activities. Annie, I would love to ask you, like, what is the why? What is the aim of this?
Well, we talked a lot about the aim and the objectives, and a couple of things that we found were that, well, young people will have to face enormous challenges in the future, like climate change, urbanization, etc. So for us, it makes sense to include them in decision making, in developing the solutions to handle these challenges, and also to make sure we have good diversity when it comes to making decisions, because a majority of leaders are a bit older. So now we wanted to ensure that we also have the youth perspective.
Yeah, exactly.
And I think this goes for all companies it's becoming more normal to set long-term strategies and targets that span over more than decades, that they will not be the ones achieving the goals.
Yeah.
And therefore, it feels very relevant to include the workforce that will.
Already when they are youth and not waiting until they're like seniors or 60 years or so.
Yeah. And people who are 30 now, they will be 50 like in 20 years. So
we're going to be so old.
We're going to be so old. But why not start now with what we can do? So I'm really happy that we got this chance to find a good forum to actually make sure that we have this perspective in place.
Exactly.
I actually often think about this. I think
Getting old?
Getting old. We all do.
No, I'm not kidding. I started saving for my retirement when I was 22.
What?
Yes. No, but I think about Agenda 2030 and Sustainable Development Goals. When they are meant to be met, I will be 36.
Still young. No.
Still young.
Yeah, right? But I'm also thinking about when I'm 36, what can I look back on?
Okay.
Like, what did I do to meet them?
What did you contribute to?
Yeah. And then I realized, okay, I need to start now. What can I do? And it's
but I think it's also more top of mind for us. And when we talk to some more senior colleagues, they say that when they were like 30 or 25, they didn't think that much about sustainability. It wasn't like a part of everything they did. But for us, it's hard to not think about it.
Of course.
So it's very much a part of every day and everything we do.
Yeah. And also, like, now I want just to raise an interesting point, because I hear a lot that, okay, maybe it's only youth from the Nordic care about the climate and so on. But what I see now, I see like a beautiful mix between like different countries. What is your reflection about this topic or this point?
We know it's a global challenge. And we have a lot of people in the Nordics. We are a global company, and we just did a survey that was like the starting point of the Youth Panel Initiative. And in that survey, we saw that 21 countries were represented. So that's good. So we had both the Nordic countries, but also UK, Brazil, Philippines, China, Russia, United States, etc. So we had a lot of countries who actually joined. And it is a global challenge. So of course we have to face it as that, and not only focus on the Nordics.
Yeah. So like the survey that you launched, it was internal in different AFRY offices, right?
Yes. So we decided to not only focus on the team of us, 7 people, but to make it a wider survey. So we decided to ask some questions related to our targets at AFRY, but also some questions about like culture. Are you afraid to speak up, or do we have a culture that supports that you speak up and that you tell your managers, for example, what you actually feel? And if you feel that what we do every day is aligned with the targets we have. And I think we had, how many responses did we get? We had quite a big engagement. I think we got over 100 questions for our CEO and our head of sustainability, asking them about, everything from culture to our targets to how we measure things to what we do in our projects. So that was a really good starting point to see the views of more people than just us 7 in the group.
Yeah. And I'd also want to add that, the youth isn't a homogeneous group. And that was very much clarified by the survey.
Yeah.
And I was really, enthusiastic to go through the answers to see how much engagement and interest and drive there is. So if I
understand the story correctly, like you, the core team, send a survey to all the youth within AFRY.
Yeah, to all employees up to 30. And that limit is a bit fluent, but we decided we had to set a limit. So we decided to go for people up to 30, just to catch their views. And that was a really good starting point for us, because that helps us to decide what to focus on next, and basing that on what people actually think is important. So like if we go from that survey, or the result from that survey, so the statement that I just mentioned is not true about like only the Nordic people in the Nordic care about sustainability and the others not really care. So this is not true. No, not based on our survey, I would say.
So tell us more. Like in the survey, you asked the employees about different questions, but also you gave them the chance to ask our CEO, right?
Yes. And then we had this kind of kickoff event a couple of weeks after we launched the survey. And in that event, we had the chance to ask these questions, or some of them, to Marie Trostam, our head of sustainability, and to Jonas Gustafsson, our CEO. And they were super brave and actually answered questions in a live event for all employees. So that was really nice to see their commitment and that they were brave enough to do this.
Yeah, and just examples of questions they answered were, what are the next steps to make AFRY a more sustainable company? are our climate targets ambitious enough? And I think it's good that they see that these are the kind of questions that people want answers to as well.
Yeah, and how did the CEO and head of sustainability reacted to these questions?
I think they were mostly happy that people were so committed, and that we got more than 100 questions.
Wow.
It's really, really nice to see that people actually care. And we both feel that young people, well, for them, this is not a topic that is separate from their lives. It's very much like a part of everything they do. And I think that was the view that Marie and Jonas had as well when they got to see these questions. And yeah, they were, as I mentioned, brave enough to answer them. And I think that shows a lot about our culture. Like, we want to be brave and to just face challenging questions in a live event. I think that's brave. You don't always have the perfect answers directly, but you have to be brave enough to show that you want to answer them and you want to talk to the young people.
Yeah, so you gathered the result from the survey, and also then you had the live event, the youth panel. And then you ask the CEO and the head of sustainability the question that you got from the survey.
Yeah. And
they answered these questions. And what was like the next step? I mean, you made it official. Now everyone knows it within AFRY about the youth panel and the initiative. What was the next step after that?
Well, we had a COP event. Would you like to tell us a bit more?
Yeah, sure. On the 5th of November at COP26, the UN Climate Change Conference, the theme was youth and public empowerment. So AFRY hosted a breakfast event to just raise the youth perspective in this forum. And we had Marie Trogstam together with youth delegates in Glasgow, and it was a hybrid event. So the CEO and Annie and I and representatives from the youth panel discussed and raised the youth perspective in the outside AFRY as well.
And we also got some feedback from the representatives at COP26. They had some youth delegates there, and they gave us some great feedback on our initiative and the questions. And it felt like a good way to include even more perspectives and to keep asking challenging questions to Maria and Jonas, because that's one of the aims of this initiative, is to be challengers and challenge the way of doing things, actually raising what the young people care about.
Yeah. And what were the topics that you discussed in COP26?
One topic is how you are part of the solution. And here we had Johanna from Norrsken, who talked about effective altruism, compound interest, and like the significance of being it's called role model and changing a market. And I was so inspired by, thinking that, I can make a difference in my work, and your career is one of the biggest investments of your life. I think they estimate it's like 80,000 hours.
Yeah.
So I have quite a few left, but I think about how I spend my time at work and what difference does that make, and what kind of power do I have in my role.
Yeah.
And I think these questions are something that everyone should think about regardless of age. But I mean, when you're entering a career or early on in your career, you have more hours ahead.
Of course.
You see where I'm going with this.
We also talked about being a sustainable employer, and we got some great feedback that you're not supposed to have to choose. All employers should be sustainable,
of course.
and that it's a non-question for the future, hopefully. So we talked a lot about like what can AFRY do, but what can other employers do, and also that it's not supposed to be something you need to choose as an individual, but you should be able to work anywhere and feel that I'm working somewhere where it's sustainable.
So it was very useful to participate in COP26.
Yeah, I think it was. And we got to rehearse our event scale, so that was good. And it was like the starting point. So we still have lots to do in the youth panel.
Yeah, so back to the story. You have the survey, the youth panel, the live event to answering the question from the survey, and then COP26, right? And what is next?
We have a lot of things going on. Right now, we're reviewing some internal work. We are We are doing this podcast.
That's amazing. Thank you so much.
Yeah. And we are contributing as to the Sustainable Stories magazine, challenging how we showcase our sustainable solutions, and many more things in the pipeline. So right now, I think we are also focusing on how we can best organize this initiative to really represent and include all the whole young workforce.
Yeah, we plan to set up some kind of communication platform, so all people who want to become involved can be involved, and to set up some kind of like plan for next year, so we can have our like core actions in place, and to decide who does what, budget, etc. Sounds boring, but it's important to make sure things are actually happening.
Yeah, and initiating this youth panel has been a lot about raising the youth perspective, but then the next step is what do you do with it? And we said a lot about, collecting and posing questions, but, we do get answers, and what do the answers lead to, and how do we follow up on the targets? It's going to be very, very exciting to see.
Yeah, because this is what I'm thinking about. Of course, it's very, very important that you raise awareness, you listen to the employee and so on. You gather data from them, but then what are you going to do? Like the actions that matters, right? So what I see now, you're going to have an action plan based on what you gather from the survey, from the panel, COP26.
Yeah, that's the plan, to set an action plan. But also, we think that's very important to not have parallel or competing processes. I mean, many things that concerns the young workforce, concerns all of us. So,
but it is about actions and decision making, and we feel that one reason that we started this is because, normally people in charge or at leadership positions, they might not be very young. So this is a way of including the young people in decision making, giving them a seat at the table. But yeah, as Linda said, we have to decide how to make things happen, and that's the main goal going forward. But yeah, I think it's important that we talk about inclusion. So we get sometimes some questions about why only the youth, why not everyone?
Yeah.
Well, it's not about excluding people, it's about including people. So trying to make sure that we have both seniors and juniors in the rooms where decisions are being made. And we want to make this a wider initiative.
Yeah. And I mean, also you do this, which is great, but does really AFRY leaders listen to what you're doing and including you in the decision making? Or no, you're just doing your own thing and that's fine?
I think both, but I think one good thing with the youth panel is that we got to run this on our own. We were given the opportunity to do something with the young people for the young people. So I think it's a good thing in that perspective that we can do this on our own. But yeah, I feel like we've been listened to a lot by Maria and Jonas, for example, in the events that I mentioned before. And now it's not only up to us, it's also up to them, but to find these forums where we can actually make sure that we are a part of making decisions.
Yeah, I feel that we've been listened to so far. But I also want to think about, we were thinking a lot about sharing insights and the value of them. But then when it comes to the point, what is my insight and where does this idea fit in our organization? What kind of, where can this make a difference? So finding the right forum for the right questions. But I think the youth panel can be a good entry for young workforce.
Yeah.
Because something we noticed in the survey, one of the questions was what kind of objective do you think the youth panel should have? Before starting the initiative, it could be a good idea to have a mutual understanding of what it is. And people want different things. So, we can't please everyone and we can't do everything. So that's why I think it's important to take some of the ideas that fit, for example, HR or communications that just pass on the insights from the survey to the right area and kind of find where the youth panel can fill the gap.
Exactly. And do you feel that there is a space for the youth to come and make a decision?
I think there is, but I mean, it depends on what you think about decision making. For example, like it's not that we've had a strategy process right now, or it's not that we've been setting targets right now. I mean, we have a very ambitious strategy in place. So it depends on what you think about as a decision making.
I'm thinking like, okay, you did the survey, nice, and you collected opinions and let's say suggestion and so on. Then we have like a for sustainability and our policy and so on. Are you going to integrate what you get from the survey into the policy, setting targets, upgrading our policy somehow based on the survey?
Yeah, I think we're doing that already. Working with, for example, feedbacking different kinds of documents that we have. They're supposed to help us to become more sustainable, for example. And what we do with the survey is that we, the small like task force, we're trying to convey the messages from the larger group, and we plan to do this survey every year so we can have some benchmarks and see if it's becoming better. So I think we're doing that, but of course we should do that even more.
I asked this in the beginning, but now I will ask it one more time. Like, what is the aim or the main goal of this?
Well, we believe that the young generation will be the ones handling all these enormous challenges we have with climate changes, urbanization, etc. So it only makes sense to make sure they are included now in decision making and in developing the solutions that would help us to solve these issues. So that's one of the main objectives, I would say, and also to make sure that we don't only have senior leaders, but also young people who get to influence what we do at AFRY and in a wider perspective as well.
And I would also just want to add that my impression of the survey results were that the young workforce really want to make a difference, and our mission is to accelerate the transition towards a sustainable society. So, I mean, we need that energy, drive. So many of the questions in the survey: what can I do? How can I make a difference? I want to do more, and do it.
If I ask like about the energy and the feelings that you got from the survey, you told me you got so many answers from different countries. Were there like young people angry, or like they were positive? Okay, we can do this together. We can fix this. Did you get my question?
Yeah, I guess both.
Like, what was it, like positive energy or negative energy? No, we are angry. Nothing is going to work.
I think more positive than negative, but we saw both. But that can also be a good thing that people are angry, because that means they are committed and want to make a change. And we want people to be challengers. We want them to ask tough questions. That's kind of the point.
Yeah, keep on asking questions. I mean, I think their questions are suitable for many forums. I mean, I guess client meetings, what kind of solutions do they want? Why? Or in the project assignments they do, is this a sustainable solution? How can this be more sustainable?
And we can also add that we actually have a process for making sure we get answers as well. Some answers, we got them during the kickoff event and also the COP26 event. But we plan to answer more questions. So I think it's important to say that we don't only want questions to be asked, but also to be answered, of course, and put into action.
Exactly. It's also like shows the brave leadership, to be honest, because what usually, again, back to what I hear from, like, I get sometimes like messages and so on, and that tells like, okay, leadership is something linked to the position. If you're like a CEO or head of, let's say something, then you're a leader. But what I see now, leadership is not really linked to a position. It's linked like to people.
Yeah, and to culture as well.
Yeah.
And I think we talked a lot about, we were happy that we were given the mandate to run something on our own. And we really did. And I think that people thrive from doing that. So if you give people the right to do something that they like really care about, that they are passionate about, I think they will actually put their heart and soul into it. And I think that's what happened with this group.
Yeah. And, I was a bit scared in the beginning, like doing this survey. I was like, maybe everyone says, this is a stupid idea. I don't care about sustainability and you're wasting my time. I mean, that would be my nightmare.
But it didn't happen.
But that didn't happen. So I was prepared for everything, but I was amazed
Yeah.
by all the answers. And reading through it, it really made me motivated to, I felt honored to even get the opportunity to advocate and speak for our young employees. And all of a sudden I felt responsible to use that voice wisely.
Yeah. Well done.
And I'm doing my best, all of you voices out there.
Vote for Linda. No, just kidding. No, but I'm very, very happy, proud that like I'm working in a company, and that like young people like you initiate this great thing that we really need it. So well done both, and thank you so much again for doing all of this.
Thank you. And thank you to all the employees who actually conducted this survey with us, and to the youth panel workforce.
Yeah. So before we move to the next question, I would love to ask, what are the next steps?
So now we have some internal projects to like review and feedback some different projects. And we're doing this podcast, of course. But I would say the next big step is to find this communication platform, invite more people, set the plan for next year, decide on like key actions, and finding ways to actually be part of decision making, and more of these projects like feedbacking and reviewing things, and be challengers.
Amazing. Well, I wish you all the good luck, and I'm also one of the employee in case there's anything we can contribute to. So just let us know.
Thank you.
Now we talked about the initiative that you made here internally within AFRY. And as we know, like AFRY is a big company, more than 16,000 employees and so on. So there are resources, time and money. But I know also at the same time, not all the companies are big as AFRY, or there are other companies with not that huge a number of employees. And this episode is to inspire all the companies or all the groups or the organizations. What if I am like, let's say, have limited resources, a small number of people in my team? How can I initiate this?
Well, I think that it's more about culture, and courage maybe, than resources, even if that's an important part as well, of course. So I think as a company owner or leader, I would say, or I would do, is to like try to find the courage to let young people speak up and actually do what they're passionate about, and try to like find a culture where people are not punished for saying things honestly or for raising an issue. Like try to find this culture where you're allowed to feedback. I think that's super important. And maybe that will lead to the young people giving ideas on how to do things differently, and perhaps better. So I think just take action and start with something small. It doesn't have to be a super big like strategic framework. It can be like a small everyday thing. And I think it starts with letting young people do what they are passionate about.
What do you think, Linda?
I agree. And
Did I steal your thunder?
No, I'm going to summarize in a short and catchy little phrase. Be the senior you needed when you were junior.
Wow.
Be the junior you will be proud of when you're senior, and be part of the solution.
Cool. Is it a bottom up or top down?
I would say neither, maybe, or both. No, but of course it's up to the leaders or the owners, for example, to ensure there's a culture that allows people to speak up. It's hard for one single person on the floor to make that happen. So in that way, it's up to the leaders, of course.
So, okay, let me advocate for some people now. Okay, so my manager doesn't care about sustainability. What should I do?
Call Linda Strindevall and she will talk you into doing something important.
Calling Linda now. So Linda, my manager doesn't care about sustainability, and I care so much. So what should I do?
Tricky. I think it really depends on what kind of work you do. I think making it a business case. Sustainability is very much a business case today, and it might not be what's called obvious for everyone. So I think that could be a good starting point, or perhaps put it from a risk and opportunity perspective. There is a lot of business in the transition towards a sustainable society, and people like business.
Yeah, and I think in a sense, you have to be sustainable in order to attract competence in the future. I can't imagine that people would want to work for someone who has that kind of culture, like we don't care. I hope it's a non-question in a couple of years. But I think the young generation is very much like, you would never choose an employer that says that. I hope that's the case, at least.
I think it will be like this.
Yeah.
Now is the transition.
Yeah, and the same goes for clients, I guess. I think you have to be sustainable, and the sooner the better.
Yeah. So your answer to a person who says, like, my manager doesn't care about sustainability, what should I do? Is that I should look at it as a business case and introduce it to the manager.
Yeah. And business case, look at the risks, possibilities. I mean, if you work, just to give you a clear example, like if you work with something that causes emissions, you can anticipate a price on carbon. What will that mean for your business? How do you secure that you're not vulnerable to that kind of cost?
Yeah.
Just look at very recent, like in the news, a lot of industries have closed down because of expensive electricity prices. Maybe it's worth having some sort of solar cells or contract for your energy prices, or using digitalization to let the industry process occur during a time of day where energy is abundant, or it's called, there's lots of cheap, clean energy.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And okay, one more question. Now we look at the top down. So I am a manager, but my employees really doesn't care about sustainability. What should I do?
You can ask them to run a youth panel, and they will be super committed and conduct a survey. No, but really, I think giving people the opportunity to drive things that they really care about, I think that people grow from getting responsibility for their own questions. So that might be something.
I would also say knowledge, awareness. I mean, if they don't care about sustainability, in my heart, I just hope that it's because they don't know or put it into context, or they don't know how that impacts them.
So it's more about like informing, raising awareness, and give a space for them to like learn more or know more about.
But I think that's like a general challenge for sustainability communication, because sometimes it's a bit high level and lots of like hard words that maybe you don't understand. So I think it's also something that we that work with communications need to think about, like how can we put this into context and explain the effects in your everyday life, and not just talk about like high level things that might be hard to grasp.
Yeah, to be honest, it's a good point that you raised now about communication, because like when I graduated, you know, when it comes to sustainability, I started to read like the policy document where like very super big words. I just skipped. Like it's like a headache.
I get that feedback a lot. They're like, "Great, Linda. What does it mean?" But I also want to defend myself here. But because some of the words have very significant meaning. What's the difference between compensate, offsetting, neutralization? I mean, these things in large scale have a big impact. Like, are you saying you're climate neutral or net zero? It's a significant difference. And so just a side note, sometimes I'm academic for a reason, and I'm
and you should be. I think it's just up to us to educate people and define everything.
I think so. It's because like we are not used for these words. That's why we look at them like very something strange, you know, weird, because our eyes and brain not really used for
and I think engineers actually work with sustainability every day in everything they do, but they don't always realize that they do. So we could, of course, be better at emphasizing that as well.
More emojis.
More emojis.
But I think that's why we are a good team.
Yeah, we had a joke, I think last week, when Linda was like, I'm going to do some climate reporting. And I was like, oh my God, that's so boring. And she was like, yeah, well, it's a good thing I have my job and you have your job.
That's amazing. And as you know, like Urbanistica podcast, in Urbanistica podcast, we talk about smart cities and what's going to happen. And I would love to ask and know more from your point of views. What is a smart city, or how do you define a smart city? We can start with you, Linda. What is your definition to a smart city?
When I think about a smart city, I think about a connected city that uses technology in an efficient way. But what I think about is other kinds of efficiency: material efficiency, energy efficiency, space efficiency, just efficiency in general. Like, for example, food waste is collected in Stockholm and it's used as biofuels for the buses. Waste incineration is used to provide heat in a large area. And I think a smart city also doesn't reinvent the wheel. I mean, there are so many smart solutions around the world. Just copy and paste what suits you. I think about when I lived in Melbourne, they have in the city center, you don't need to use a public transport. It's free public transport just to reduce cars and traffic, and super convenient when you're moving around the city center. The congestion's very reduced.
Yeah.
I really like that. And a recent example, I like how the public transport tickets are, you can buy them with your credit card in Stockholm now. So you can just, super smooth. And I love how the public transport system in Stockholm is connected between buses, metro, light rail, boats. You go wherever.
This is what I appreciate here in Stockholm, that we have only one card for everything, like all the public transportation. If you take the boat, the bus, the metro, the train, this saves a lot of time. I saw it in other countries, like you need to have like 4 or 5 different public transportation cards.
Maybe the next step is a national system then.
It was fun because like for a few years ago in Moscow, they had like you can have your bus card as a ring. And wear it, or as for the key, like what do you call it?
Keychain.
Yes, exactly. So you can have it like this. It's also fun.
Some companies try to chip as well that you can have in your arm or something, but that's
I don't want that.
Yeah,
and you're a super fan if you do that.
But another thing I think about cities that are smart, they think about what assets they have. I mean, what do we have to work with?
Yeah.
I think about Iceland, for example. They have so much geothermal heating. They kind of use it so they don't have to remove the snow. Just so smart.
Exactly. So for you, a smart city is more about using the resources we have and reusing the resources or the waste we have.
Yeah. And you can think about that in like what kind of stores we have as well. I mean, when you walk around a city, you often think about consumption. And there are very few stores or areas where you can go to repair. I've been really getting into that. I've been befriending the seamster who works on my street.
Yeah.
And I'm just amazed by everything he can repair and the quality and how cheap it is. You who live near me, I'm going to recommend you.
I can second that. I always struggle with finding, like, it's so difficult to repair things, but it's so easy to buy things that are new. Yeah. So I totally, I want to have that advice as well.
And just my latest, this is a bit embarrassing, but so we broke the clip on my dog's coat. Now when it's really cold, she needs it. And we thought, this is so sad. Just a little bit of plastic is cracked, so I can't close the jacket. But it's a perfectly functional jacket. So I brought this dog jacket to the seamster. and he didn't laugh at me. He just took it and he did an amazing job, and my dog and I are happy and warm.
He'd be like, new generation. young generation.
Yeah. No shame.
I can totally feel that. I think I have bought like 5 or 6 like front lights to my bike because I lost some kind of plastic detail, and you can buy it, but it's like the same price as buying the full lamp again, and it takes like forever to get it. So good example of how to make a city smarter.
Yeah, and also you can rent so many tools. When I moved, I needed, I don't know what it's called in English. I barely know what it's called in Swedish. It's this tool that cuts up bike locks. I did not steal a bike, but I had to.
Wait. I need maybe cut this from the podcast.
One of my points to make a city smart is to have good bike parking that is safe. So maybe I should emphasize that more.
Yeah.
But I mean,
So
like,
tell us more about how, make it clear for the listener.
yeah, no, but so, I mean, how often do you use a drill, for example? It's like when you move and you put up paintings.
Yeah.
And then you need to store this drill, and drills are expensive. I mean, renting that drill, it's so easy. So I'm very enthusiastic to see initiatives or, you know, those kinds of services opening up around town. But I still feel that it's very dominated by linear consumerism. But I think in the future, a smart city also thinks about repair. I mean, just imagine the reduced waste that you need to handle. I mean, it's smart.
Exactly.
And also for transport, I think that if it's easier and cheaper to take the car, people will still take the car. But if you make it easier, like promote biking, for example, that will happen. So we need to make sure to actually encourage people to do the right choices.
Yeah. How about you, Anne?
Well, for me, a smart city is planned from the people's needs and also designed in a way that promotes smart and sustainable choices. So, for example, I want it to be easier for me to take public transport, not my car. And I want the streets to be dedicated to bicycles, public transport, and not cars, for example.
Yeah. So if I ask you, can you give us an example of something like in the city that we can make smarter? Like as an urban planner, what can I make?
I would say public spaces, that they have multiple functions. I think about, it can be a place to get calm. It can be a place for exercise. It can be a place for, handling stormwater. And it can be a good way of connecting different parts of the city.
Yeah. Is it easy for you to walk your dog and find a public space that you?
Yes.
And you live in Stockholm, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So it's easy.
Yeah, it is easy, and I appreciate that a lot.
Nice.
I'm very passionate about mobility, and especially combined mobility. I'm a big fan of everything you do, so I'm just happy to be here. No, but seriously, I think combined mobility is super important to make people travel in a more sustainable way. And I think that Sweden has a long way to walk when it comes to combining different modes of transport. So that's something that I would like to see in the future. Like, I want to be able to bring my bike on the train, that sort of stuff.
What other mobility options that you want us to combine?
Well, I do talk a lot about bikes, but I would also like to focus on sharing services, and you don't have to always own things to be able to travel in a sustainable way. So having carpools, bicycle sharing services, I think that's also an important tool to make it easier for people to make the right choices.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much. Interesting reflections. So Annie, if we go to the future, and you will be allowed to create one rule or add one thing to all the cities on this planet, what will you add?
I think car-free city centers, maybe not the whole city, but I don't really see a reason for why we should be able to drive in the middle of the city center. So that's something I would promote. I'm also a bit worried about the housing market. I really hope that we can build more affordable, sustainable apartments in our cities. That is a big issue.
Yeah. How about you, Linda? If you will be the mayor of the planet, what will you add to all the cities?
I think about the roofs. I feel that there's so much space on the roofs that are not utilized. And I'm a big fan of rooftop bars or restaurants or anything. And I just want to use them more. I really like the initiatives of having green roofs.
Yeah.
And it's so practical with insulation and biodiversity in the cities, but rainwater management. I've also seen many roofs, having bees.
Yeah.
But also if it's not possible, at least in cities such as California, when they paint it white and reflect energy instead of, I would focus on roofs.
Yeah, like how to say, rethinking or reusing the roofs.
Yeah.
Interesting.
And I like if you're high up in a city and you look out, I hate seeing boring roofs with like, air conditioners.
Okay.
It makes me kind of sad.
Okay, I got
more bars, more green spaces, and more solar panels.
Yeah.
Yes, that's what I want to see in a view.
Hopefully you will.
But I also love the traditional, old roofs with, a little peak. I mean, not every roof should be the same. I mean, yeah.
You see, it's very difficult to work with architecture and urban planning.
Well, she's the mayor of the world. She can do whatever she wants.
Is this too much to ask?
Well, interesting answers. And now moving to the last section of this episode, it's going to be more like personal, because I also would love to talk about the person, not only about projects, initiative, because I believe that there is a great people behind all the great initiatives and work and projects that we do. So I will start with you, Annie. If you will be an animal, which animal will you choose to be?
I gave this so much thought because I wanted to say something fun and smart, but I ended up with choosing a cat because I love cats. And my parents' cat is called Göran, and he has the perfect life. He's independent, but he gets to cuddle when he wants to, and he's so loved by everyone. He gets to eat whenever he wants, and he gets to sleep whenever he wants. And I'm pretty happy with that life. So I'll stick to the cat.
Life is good if you're a cat, right?
Yeah.
And you, Linda?
Yeah, I'm going to be equally boring and say dog.
Come on.
No, but I think about my dog, Peggy, and she's just living the life. She's happy to wake up. She's happy to go out. She's happy to go in. She loves food, cuddles, play. And just wagtail.
Yeah. Interesting, no? Like our animals is living their perfect life, and
well, I'm working very hard on that.
Yeah, very interesting answers. And I would love to ask you also about like your favorite cities. So do you have a favorite city, Linda? Like, and why just this specific city?
Well, it feels predictable and maybe boring to say Stockholm, because I am from Stockholm and I live here, but I love Stockholm. I love how it's, built around the islands, and the water in between, there's so many like skylines or, waterfronts with different vibes, and it gives a sense of very openness. I mean, it's not crowded because it's water. I mean, you can, but there's not much, and I like that. You never have to go look or go far to go to a park or a green area.
Yeah.
And we have a lot of larger greener areas in the city center. Yeah,
I totally agree with you that like it's accessible, to be honest. Like the water, the greenery, and you don't need like to travel 3 hours or 2 hours to reach out to something.
Yeah, and I think it's the perfect size.
Yeah, that's true.
It's big enough to have a variety, and there's always something new opening or, something happening.
Yeah.
But it's also small enough you can walk or bike, basically, if you're in the city center.
Yeah.
You can move around and utilize the whole city.
Yeah. Do you have a favorite public space?
Yes.
Which one is it?
I don't know if this is a public space. I'm not an urban planner, but I would say the waterfronts. I think it's so cool how the water meets the city in such a strong contrast.
Yeah.
And how you can be so close to the city, but still like look out in the water and just feel that, breeze. And like, this is the cheesiest thing I'm going to say today, but I moved around a lot, and sometimes, I get homesick. And then I go to the waterfront, and the water connects the whole world.
Wow.
And I'm kind of like, imagine like back in the day, there weren't planes or trains, and you went by boats, and it really does connect us all. And I love swimming. Like in the summer, I don't want to go far to take that dip. So I really appreciate how much water there's in Stockholm, and how you can go down and take a dip on on your lunch break.
Exactly.
I love that.
Nice. Interesting. Very, very beautiful reflection about the water connecting the different countries. Like Vikings.
Are you a Viking?
I haven't seen the show.
Annie, how about you? What is your favorite city?
I'll have to say Gothenburg. None of my colleagues are surprised. Well, Stockholm has the subway, which is clearly better than the system in Gothenburg, I have to admit, and also the water, like being more a part of the city. But I love Gothenburg. I was raised in the western part of Sweden, so that's more like home for me.
Yeah.
It has a really nice vibe, and lots of nice AFRY colleagues there as well, of course. But yeah, it's a nice city.
What is the nice thing in Gothenburg that makes you like it?
Maybe that it's a bit smaller than Stockholm, and also that it has more like a rough vibe. Slightly more polished in Stockholm, I think. But I think it's mostly that it's more like home for me. It's closer to where I grew up.
Yeah, that's beautiful. From which city are you, or you were born?
Well, it's called Falköping. It's a tiny city, but maybe someone here knows it. So yeah, but it's a beautiful city as well, but a lot smaller than both Gothenburg and Stockholm.
And do you have a favorite public space that you would love to go? Let's say every morning, maybe.
Oh, every morning would be good if I did, but my favorite public space is definitely what we in Sweden call elljusspår. So it's like lighted forest, like trails for running or walking. And I actually looked this up. And let's see, I think that a third of Swedes have less than 1 kilometer to their closest elljusspår.
Wow. Which
makes it possible for us to go for a run or a walk, even if it's dark, which it is from October until March in Sweden, 24/7. It's just a very nice thing, I think, that we have this so close to our homes, that we like meet up and go for a run, even though it's cold and dark. That says a lot about the culture in Sweden, I think.
Yeah, that's beautiful.
I think you're forgetting the most important activity.
Walking the dog, or cross-country skiing. Yes, we both love cross-country skiing.
Because now I just wanted to ask you, what are your hobbies?
Let's start with the skiing then. I don't think, I'm not very good at it, but I like doing it. So cross-country skiing is one. I'm very outdoorsy, so I like hiking, walking and running. I play soccer, and I do some biking. So a lot of sports and outdoor activities, but I'm also a foodie. Maybe not as much as Linda is. We'll have to compare sometime. And then I love music, so I have lots of concerts booked. I went to 2 this week. So
wow.
Yeah.
Which 2 you went to?
This week I went to Anna Diaz, and then a Avicii tribute concert yesterday in Avicii Arena.
Yeah.
And I have 5 or 6 concerts coming up next couple of months. So
that's amazing.
Yeah, that's a big passion of mine.
Cool. How about you, Linda? Your hobbies?
Yeah, I also like to go out in nature, and if it's just a walk with the dog or skiing, I love skiing. Downhill, cross country, both. Love swimming, as I mentioned. But I also like cooking, eating. It's very much a hobby. But I also like being crafty. For me, it's a bit of a stress relief, and I like to be creative. You might not think so, being an engineer and all, but I knit, for example.
Wow.
Yeah.
Cool.
I'm not the best, but I enjoy it. So
that's enough, no?
Right? Yeah, and during this pandemic, you've been kind of gotten the opportunity to explore hobbies.
Did you develop a new hobby during the pandemic?
No, I explored Netflix and HBO. No, but I think I was more outdoorsy than I usually am. And I actually started skiing because my friend lured me into doing this thing called a Swedish Classic. So you have to do 4 races, and that's like running, biking, cross-country skiing, and swimming.
Okay.
And I was pretty fine with everything besides skiing, because I never did that before. So I had to learn during last year, but I didn't have that much else going on. So that was actually perfect for that Corona year.
It's funny because that's how I started cross-country skiing.
Also.
Somebody lured me into this.
Yes.
But just, if you're not from Sweden, these races, they have historic significance, so they're spread out throughout the year. So it's Vasaloppet, Vansbrosimningen,
Vätternrundan.
Vättern, Yeah.
Leading a lot.
Leading loppet, yeah. So I think it was fun also to be pushed to trying new sports. But besides the cross-country skiing, that year when I did the classic, I really got exposed to biking as well. I didn't know that it was so much fun.
Cool.
Yeah.
Nice. Interesting. Well, I'm very happy to talk to you, and I would love that we continue also a new episode and you keep us updated about your work, because it's very important. And now we are in the end of this episode, which means I have only 2 questions left. The first question is, what are your 3 takeaway messages to our listeners? We can start with you, Linda.
My takeaway messages. I would say that speak up for things you are passionate about and try to make a difference. And also listen and be open to the world around you. Does that count as 2?
Yeah.
My third one would be do something that you like, because then you're probably going to do something well. Yeah.
Thank you. Annie, your 3 takeaway messages to our listeners.
Okay, 3 takeaway messages. I'll start with the city part then. So plan cities where the good choices, the sustainable choices are being promoted, so it's easy to do the right choices. And to include the young generation. And I think we need to start with the culture, like I mentioned before, like make sure people are not afraid to speak up and share their opinion. And have faith in young people. Let them do what they are passionate about. I think that's really a key.
Yeah. Thank you so much. And last question is going to be asked by you. So each one of you will ask me and the listeners a question. Then after that, we're going to end the episode. Who would love to start first?
I can start. Mustafa.
No, just kidding.
This youth panel that we have initiated at AFRY, what do you want us to do?
Ooh, that's a good question.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll ask, is there something that you or your company can do right now to become more sustainable?
Interesting. You have more questions?
Yes. I want you to ask if you are part of the solution.
Good one. Well, thank you so much for being here. Thank you so much for giving your valuable time. And also, from me, from the youth, I would love to say thank you for initiating this initiative and keep up the good work.
Thank you so much for inviting us.
Thank you so much. It has been fun.
Well, thank you so much for listening to Urbanistica podcast. I hope you really enjoyed this episode. You learned something new and also got inspired by the guest. Don't forget to share the episode on your social media and recommend it to people you think they are really interested in this topic. Thank you so much again for giving your valuable time to Urbanistica podcast. I am Mustafa Sharif. Keep up the good work. Keep loving cities.